Worship through giving today, if you have a Bible. Worship through giving today, if you have a Bible. Why don't you find the book of Matthew, chapters, which I'll finish after Easter, beginning of Holy Week. And I want to read to you entry. I don't know about you. I was 5. I'm not going to tell you how old I am right now because you'll know I'm ancient. And I have loved, I've been in church on a regular basis. I've read this stuff over and over again. And I don't know, as I get a little older, the one thing that I like about Jesus is that I think he was a fun guy. I just do. I mean, you know, all of the pictures, and you remember the paintings, Jesus, this pale, drawn, just like that he would probably only barely be able to reach out and talk to you about his love. He was hanging out with fishermen. I've been in enough boats with fishermen to know they're a little ornery. And I think Jesus had a sense of humor. And I just wonder, at the start of this day of the triumphal entry, I wonder if he and the guys hadn't just finished breakfast up on the hill outside Jerusalem. And he kind of looks at the guys and said, "You want to cause some trouble today?" Oh, I know that wasn't very holy, but okay, I'm going to go ahead and read. I like to think about this. Triumphal entry, Matthew chapter 21, verse 1. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you're going to find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them, bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, tell him the Lord needs them, and he will send them right away." Now, can you imagine the guys, so you want us to just go and untie some guy's property in broad daylight with witnesses? I think Jesus has a sense of humor. This took place, though, to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. "Say to the daughter of Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt, placed their cloaks on them, and Jesus sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of them and those that followed shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest!" When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" And the crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." So I'm going to tell you a little story. It was Palm Sunday at church, but because of a sore throat, 5-year-old little Annie stayed at home with her mom. And when the rest of the family came home from church, they were carrying little palm branches. You guys remember that? Maybe years ago in church, everybody got a palm branch. And Annie asked them, well, what are they for? Well, people held them over Jesus' head as he rode by on a colt, her daddy explained. And little Annie's went, wouldn't you know it? One Sunday I'm sick, Jesus shows up and offers pony rides. Like the way she thinks. But let's admit it, sometimes Palm Sunday is a bit of a puzzle for a lot of people. There are a lot of paradoxes in Palm Sunday. Now, I know I shouldn't be questioning a moment in the church calendar that goes all the way back to the 3rd or 4th century, but I wonder sometimes why I'm always a little internally upended about how to fully go about presenting this day. Because I'm going to tell you how it usually went when I was a kid growing up. You arrive at church and a smiling usher would hand each member of the family a little palm branch. And your fellow churchgoers, likewise armed with palm branches, watch as adorable little boys and girls in floral dresses, the little girls in tiny sweater vests, the boys, line up. And the music revs up something processionally-ish, and a little parade begins. And people, "Hosanna! Hosanna to the King of Kings!" we're all supposed to say or sing or somehow convey. At that point, we know what's going on. The congregants are essentially playing the role of the crowd in the triumphal entry narrative from the Gospels that we just read. Now, we're supposed to be feeling really joyful because Jesus is the King of Kings. And here he comes in triumph, the humble king that the prophets foretold as Savior, except that on this beginning of Holy Week, Jesus is coming into Jerusalem to die. Now, unlike the crowds in the story, at this point in my life, and as many times as I've read and experienced this and applied it in my own life, I know what's coming. I know what's ahead for Jesus. And it's only from the perspective of history that I want to wave a little palm branch about it. Later in the service, though, in my growing up, if things go as usual, we'll once again be compelled to play the role of the crowd. Someone, typically the pastor, will scold us for turning on Jesus just a few days later and shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And the preacher say, "How fickle you are. How quickly you turn from the Jesus you praised just days